cat starts bad fire in Revelstoke, British Columbia. The family cat was responsible for the destruction of the house. In some unknown manner, the animal caught fire and bolted from the house to the stable, scattering flames as he ran. The buildings were a total loss. How does that even happen? Tongue gray, your intestines need attention. Also, what is this picture? Let's see what they have to say. Nature has a way of informing us when all is not well within. Don't wait until you begin to feel ill. When your tongue shows gray in the mirror, take Pluto water at once. Physicians prescribe it, druggists sell it. Pluto water. Is this even a thing anymore? It was a strong laxative with sodium and magnesium sulfate. Doesn't look like it's a thing anymore. Also, I love this picture of it. Like, what is this guy doing? Kind of reminds me of the villain on SpongeBob SquarePants. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. So I found this old article from the Wichita Daily Eagle from May 4th, 1925. This was a newspaper in Wichita, Kansas, but it has a lot of wild articles from all across the world, honestly, so just wanted to read some of those today. Navy hunts sharks. I did not know about this. Spanish government sends warships out to save sardines. Spanish government assigned warships to patrol the coast and shoot at sight all sharks, which are responsible for the great destruction of sardine schools. I had no idea that was a thing or sharks were even that bad. Spain, I think you're doing a little too much with all that. Wait, this one right next to it's crazy. Body of captain who went down with ship found. Lake Erie yields 1 of 9 victims drowned when cargo of sand shifted. Deckhand was a hero. Looks like the boat called the Sandsucker Kelly Island turned over near Point Pelee. I looked up where that was. It's pretty close to Detroit, but it's actually in Ontario, Canada, down here. Looks like it's a national park, but it's quite small for a national park. I wonder how it happened. It says the captain remained in the deckhouse as the ship sank. So the captain really went down with the ship. Looks like the deckhand named Curtis Brown. He rescued 3 of the members of the ship. So I found this other article about it, and it says the adverse weather conditions and shifting cargo caused this vessel to capsize. Here's the boat overturned. And that same guy, Curtis Brown, he was successful in rescuing 3 people. They really mastered clickbait back then too. This one, slain over $1 debt. Looks like this guy was fatally stabbed during a quarrel that was said to have arisen over a debt of $1. It's said by witnesses that the guy struck the other guy with a rock before it. Oh my gosh. And as this was 1925, there are some poorly chosen words in here that obviously I do not condone the use of, so I'm sorry if you see those in the newspaper. Gallstone Troubles Explained, a new booklet by Dr. Paddock of Kansas City, Missouri, has been of value to sufferers of gallstone. It describes a safe home treatment prescribed for him for over 30 years. Interesting. I wonder what this treatment was, because obviously the 20s had a lot of medicines and treatments that were not actually good for you. Man, I tried to look this up and I could not find what the actual treatment was, but there was a booklet called The Liver and Gall Dare, which I couldn't find that either, but if any of you can find it, I would love to know, because this is really interesting. Some of these advertisements are so weird. Cuticura bath comforts baby's skin. I wonder if that's a thing today too. So it looks like this thing was a small quantity of Prussian blue and a little phenol. But it does look like it still is a thing today that you can buy. I don't know, I've never heard of this. Here's another somewhat ominous picture, but it says, wives, when there's a grill, there's a way to get the most unusual luncheon. Our free book shows 63 ways to use Premier salad dressing. Very weird. The cheerful cherub, I love to lie awake at night, with not a thing to hear or see. That's when I get acquainted with the utter stranger, known as me. Aw, that's actually kind of cute. Just to be followed up by this terrible article. Mob breaks up Klan meet in Berlin, Massachusetts. What? A clash between very, very bad people that I cannot say and anti-Klansman sympathizers. What? 300 members of the order, including women and children, were stoned by a mob of 100 young men. Stones flew from both sides, but no injury. That's terrible. What? I looked it up, and apparently near Worcester, Massachusetts during that time was a big hotspot for that type of stuff, which I had no idea about. Okay, let's change to something else. Too many rules. Multiplicity of traffic regulations defeats own end, says experts. In Washington, traffic regulations have reached the point where, by so many rules, signs, and directions, it's defeating its own end and confusing the motorist. People are suffering from a traffic complex. Well, it's 100 years later, and it's gotten a lot more complex, so... Holy crap, 2 killed in blast. 3 miners were injured when pocket of gas explodes in Nortonville, Kentucky. It occurred 200 feet underground. 2 of the men escaped unharmed, too. Here's some old track history. Paavo Nurmi won a 2-mile race in 9 minutes and 35 seconds. Now, Paavo Nurmi was one of the most decorated Olympic medalists of all time. So he set 22 world records in the distances between 1,500 meters and 20 kilometers. And he won 9 gold and 3 silver medals. That would be something that's almost impossible to do in track and field today, just because the level of competition and how fast the times have gotten. But this guy was wild. If this is your list of world records on Wikipedia, then you know you're a legend. Back then, this was freaking fast. His mile was 4:10. His 5K was 14:28. His 10K was 30 minutes, 6 seconds. Nowadays, the world record for the mile is 3:43, and the 5K is like 12:35. So he would get lapped about twice today, but he was working with a weird track surface, weird shoes, not very good training, and not near as good nutrition as people have today. Here's an entire article on flabbiness written by a doctor at the time. This article describes factors which tend to depress metabolism and produce flabbiness in children. Confinement, like lack of exercise, fresh air and sunshine, overclothing, what? And overfeeding. When the cereal preparations are too liberally used in a child's diet, as often happens in America, the child usually receives insufficient protein and insufficient animal fat, and all of the prepared cereal foods are too poor in vitamins. They did end up adding vitamins to cereal eventually, but there's still not enough protein or animal fat in cereal, so yeah. Popular Wichita girl signed for work in movies. Miss Louise Brooks. She's been placed under contract for the screen production The Streets of Forgotten Men and the musical production Louis XIV. So this movie was a silent crime melodrama film. And it looks like Louise Brooks was a mall, but was uncredited for some reason. Now we have the 1-cent sale. How much was that worth? Okay, so I looked it up and it's worth 18 cents today, so still not that much. Oh, but I guess these things aren't 1 cent. They're like 26 cents or 51 cents. That makes sense, okay. This is such a different assortment of things on here than you would see today. There's foot powder, aspirin tablets, okay. Hinkle pills, what is that? Okay, so Hinkle's pills were in this little bottle, and apparently they're a laxative. For some reason, there's a lot of laxatives being sold back then too. I don't know what these are either, Bandoline or Billiantine. Let's look that up. Okay, I looked up Bandoline. It looks like it was some old type of hairspray. And it looks like Brilliantine, even though it is spelled differently, was a men's hair grooming product. Honestly, this kind of reminds me of the TikTok shop. Just kind of like the most random stuff ever. It's a boy, it's our treat. We're going to celebrate all week. Cigars for the men, candy for the women and kiddies. Drive in and fill up. A service station, okay. Whoa, here's something cool. With Wichita's electric cops. I wasn't sure what this was at first, but they're calling them electric traffic cops, and they're calling them a signal system. So I wonder if these were like early traffic lights. I think the electric system is a great improvement over the old method of handling traffic. I'm a pedestrian, and sometimes I don't like to wait at the street crossings, but I believe the new regulations will prevent many accidents. I like to be able to drive my car across the intersections without danger of running someone down. The new system permits a motorist to make good time on the busy streets without danger. So I wonder if this was like the advent of traffic lights. Yeah, it looks like just before this, in 1912, the first electric traffic lights were developed. And by 1922, these towers were controlled by automatic timers. This is such a random article, but it just talks about man's speed records. And it's saying that for the 1 mile distance, the skating world record was 2 minutes and 35 seconds. Running was 4 minutes, 10 seconds. Bicycling was 1 minute and 4 seconds. But it's just flexing that the horse has set faster records, I guess. So I don't even know what the point of this article is. This help wanted section is super weird and super random. First of all, they're sexist. They just said male. But anyways, one of them is they want a man to cut asparagus. Bring your own lunch and you can apply at this address. This one's so weird. It just says they want a young man with dogged determination and plenty of common sense who will work and train for 1 year at, I think, $1,800 to secure executive position with established firm. They need to give more info about that. Yeah, this is clearly before they had anti-discrimination laws. Obviously, it's 1925. This one, they want a capable, energetic, young, married man with clerical experience. Like, what does being married have to do with it? Bible teacher convicted. He was convicted of operating a confidence game and was sentenced to a term of 5 to 6 years in the state penitentiary. He was found guilty of defrauding a Denver man of $7,000. What is a confidence game? Okay, so a confidence game is an elaborate swindling operation in which advantage is taken of the confidence the victim reposes in the swindler. That still doesn't exactly make sense, but okay. So basically, it victimizes wealthy and prominent individuals. A typical scheme induces the victim to a dishonest gambling establishment. The mark sees decoys or shills who appear to be making big winnings. The inside man advances the Mark's funds, and he's allowed to win with uncanny regularity. Oh, whenever he realizes that an additional investment will bring him a substantial win, like he keeps putting in money basically, and he sees that he's winning a lot, then he's persuaded to bring a lot of money back, and when he places his bet, his luck suddenly changes and his fortune disappears in a matter of minutes. That's pretty wild, honestly. Town wiped off map by a court begins to move. Lavoy, Wyoming makes way for encroaching oil rigs, goes to south. It looks like this booming town at the time was moved so this Ohio oil company could just search for oil there. At first, the citizens objected to the ruling and began arming themselves, intent upon fighting the court, and the oil company donated to the new town site and also offered to aid the residents in moving their homes if they abide by the court's decree. Why does that sound exactly like the plot of a movie or something? Anyways, those are all the articles I'm going to read from the Wichita Daily Eagle from May 4th, 1925. If you enjoyed this new type of content, let me know. If you don't, also let me know, because I just wanted to try this out. So thanks for watching.